Hello, my loves. Welcome into this Aries new moon, Act 2 solar eclipse reading. This is for you if this moon is happening in your fifth house, meaning that you are a Sagittarius rising if you're using the whole house system, or that 29 degrees 50 minutes of Aries shows up in your fifth house. Welcome in. If you have not watched the introduction to this reading, please go ahead and do that. This is a different reading than I have done before, and there is some information that you'll need to really understand what it is that I'm talking about and what it is that we're diving into here. Okay, so my intention for this reading is to give advice and guidance on how to free you from the human condition. And so understanding what the human condition is part of that, which I do my best to explain in the introduction. And if you would rather just watch the interview that discusses the human condition with the author who has put forth this content and information, then you can go ahead and watch that instead. That is an hour-long video. I did my best to synthesize it and explain it succinctly in like 10 minutes. It's like a 20-minute video with all the other explanation about the cycle involved, but it's a little bit less of a time commitment. But if you want to dive fully into the content, you can just watch the interview instead. Up to you. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. So the fifth house is the house of creativity, ruled by the fifth sign of the zodiac, which is Leo. Deals with pleasure, hobbies, fun, games, and first child. Love it. We're going to relate the freedom from the human condition advice and content and guidance here based on this area of your life and how to apply the human condition awareness and content to this area of your life and how to experience freedom in this area of your life as well. First, let's review the card that came through from Act 1 of this reading, which was the Law of Attraction. Relationships and activities that you once enjoyed are now changing as you become more sensitive and aware of energies. This could not be more true for the human condition content. So for me personally, I've recognized that a lot of the activities that I was involved in prior to understanding this material, sorry, it's bothering me that it wasn't centered. Okay, better. Were based on validation seeking. And some of them I still do, but I do them with a different energy, and some of them I've dropped completely. Like, for example, I love to paint rocks. And I recognize that even though I still paint rocks, a lot of why I was painting rocks to begin with was for validation seeking. And when you understand the human condition, when you understand that we've been dealing with a psychosis and neurosis of ourselves on an individual level and humanity on a collective level. And one of the ways to cope with this psychosis and neurosis is to desperately seek validation. Because there's a question, the neurosis going on within us. There's a fear that maybe we aren't worthy. Maybe we didn't get the love that we needed as a child because we weren't worthy of it. Maybe the reason that we're kind of a terrible person sometimes and don't act lovingly and don't act cooperatively and are competitive and selfish and jealous and all of that stuff. Maybe the reason that we are that way is because we're not really worthy. And that doesn't feel good to our bodies. It goes against our instinctual knowing. And so we try to explain it, or we try to resolve that feeling by validation seeking, by going outward and trying to do things to make us feel better. The problem with that is it only makes us feel better for a little bit until we remember something else that we did, until we do something else that we feel is unlovable, and then we need to seek validation again. So the activities that you once enjoyed and the people that you used to hang out with may be changing because you're having a new awareness of the fact that you were only in the relationship to receive validation from it. You were only doing the activity because it gave you some sort of validation. And once you know, without a doubt, that you have worth that's intrinsic to you, that was true from the moment you were born and came into this existence and still is true today, no matter the things that you have done to hurt others, to to hurt others. I won't go through other examples. The things you've done, you're still worthy. And the things that you used to enjoy, the things that used to validate you, won't validate you anymore. Same is true for your coping mechanisms. The things that you used to go to avoid the psychosis, which is a soul illness, which is the part of us that felt soul sick at encountering a world that isn't loving, that isn't selfless, that isn't nurturing. We've been coping with that. We want to push that down. We don't want to look at that. We don't want to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with that. Like, how do I deal with the fact that this world is a terrible place, right? Or seemingly, even though it feels like intrinsically on the inside, like we know that there's something better. We know that something else is possible. We don't see that anyone else is really acting with that knowing. And so we cope with this pain, with this psychosis, with different habits, different ways of dealing with this pain. Okay. And some of it's just a numbing effect, and some of it is an actual outright attack on innocence. Those who have experienced an extreme lack of nurturing and extremely harsh environments, they've dealt with what happened to them, the attack on their innocence, by attacking innocence. Okay. And there's many ways that we do that, ways that you might not think. So just be open to maybe exploring that and understanding. But you may find that a lot of things are shifting for you as you have a new awareness, as you have a new understanding. That really feels like the law of attraction cards here for me. This content and material really says that how to live now that we know this. Like, what do we do? That was the big question for me when I first started studying this. I was like, well, what now? What now? Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And there really is no formula for what to do, which I've recognized in retrospect is beautiful about this content, that there's no one person telling us what to do. But their guidance, their meaning the WTM, which is the World Transformation Movement, which supports Jeremy Griffith and his work and his understanding and getting it out there. They call it the Sunshine Highway, and it's just walking down this road and sharing this material and living the truth of this knowing and being freed from all of the weight of the pains and sufferings of our past by having this understanding, by having this knowing, by knowing that clean slate for everybody. We're all equal. We're all equally worthy, and we are a species that developed from unconditional love and nurturing, and we're going back to this unconditionally loving, nurturing state as a species. And we're walking each other home to this reality. And so we have to share this content with material. We have to free others from this material as well. Now, your hobbies might change. The way that you have fun might change. Your interaction with your child might change, especially your first child. If you have more than one child, what happens when there's more than one child involved within the first 6-7 years of that first child's life is they start to look at the other children in their life as competition for the nurturing that they were getting fully, or at least the full attention of, and then the attention is split, which is, none of this is to shame parents. We've all been dealing with this collectively as a species for 2 million years. It's not a shameful thing to have been running on what was going on collectively, okay, and individually within our lives. But what happens for the first child is that they really feel neglected. They feel like they had this love and this nurturing, and then a second child came in and took that away. And so you may be changing your relationship with your first child, or you as a first child may be having a new understanding of your relationship with your siblings, or just understanding that first child trauma in a different way. Another way that this may be playing out in the fun and games realm, this is how it's playing out for me. I'm actually developing a few different games that can help teach this material, because I think it's very important to be sharing this. That's why I devoted an entire reading to this content and may continue to do so. That is unknown. All I knew was that the solar eclipse was time for me to talk about this and time to work on sharing it in my own way, through my own terms, through my own understandings, and what I've already built, which is this amazing astrological game that we're playing here with the cards and the cycles to learn more about ourselves. And I feel like this content shares more about ourselves than all of the rest of this combined. But I do still feel like the cards and the cycles and connecting with our guides, connecting with our instinctive knowing that exists within us is part of what to do once this material really is understood. Share it. Okay, so you might be sharing it through games, you might be sharing it through hobbies. It might become a new hobby for you, a new area of interest for you. That's really kind of what they intend at the WTM, the World Transformation Movement, is that we all start to share this content and information and get more people to really understand the human condition, because it's only through understanding the human condition that we can really free ourselves from it. Spiritual tools have done such a great job at giving us relief from the human condition, but treating the core wounds, that is something that we are now going to be able to do with this information and content. Okay. Fifth housers, my beautiful Sagittarius risings. I don't think I have anything else to share with you at this time related to this. So enjoy the next 6 months of understanding this information, this content, seeing it all around you. Perhaps you want to make this a new hobby, studying this information, sharing this information. And perhaps you want to turn it into a game. If you do want to reach out to me and work on what I'm working on, I'm happy to talk to you about that. But yeah, we're going to be moving into a very interesting time for humanity. And I believe this information is part of that interesting time, as we all start to wake up to our genetic inheritance of altruism and the depth of trauma that we've all been coping with to various degrees, that has been a result of the nurturing deficit and the competitive, angry, destructive, greedy, uncooperative world that we've seen throughout our lifetimes, which goes against our genetic inheritance and our own shame and guilt that we have felt for the ways that we've acted outside of that altruistic way. Enjoy the shifts. Let me know how this resonates. Let me know if you have questions. And as always, namaste. The universal light within me salutes and honors the universal light within you. Namaste.